Hey everybody, JJ here. Welcome back for another Saturday of Zoom networking. It's raining in Southern California. Crazy weather. We usually got baseball weather for the Dodgers right now, but it's raining. We got a great guest speaker today. I'm really excited about the young man that's coming on. He's out of Pace Morby Sub 2 community. Need to say no more about Pace Morby and Sub 2. Rock star of creative finance and real estate in the country is Pace Morby. Sub 2 is the premier real estate educational platform in the country, bar none. It's growing leaps and bounds and popularity as well. The young man we have speaking with us today is one of the rock stars out of Sub 2. Started as a student. He's now become a mentor in the community, investor, entrepreneur, and just, highly respected and recognized in the community and also by Pace. So we're just blessed to have this young man on today, rock star out of Sub 2. My friend Rob Sema. Rob, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic, JJ. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you and your community.
Well, thank you, man. It's we're honored to have you on today. So let's get right down to it. Where in the country are you located for people that don't know you?
I am in San Antonio, Texas, but I frequent Austin often enough. But having said that, I'm open and work across the country.
Cool. So obviously real estate's our commonality. That's what we're all talking about. What did you always live in San Antonio? Are you raised there?
So I'm an immigrant. I came over to the States when I was like 2 years old, escaping communism. Grew up in New York City until I was about 10 years old in Queens. Our family relocated to Portland, Oregon on the West Coast, across the country. So grew up in Portland. Lived there most of my life. That's where I got married. Went to college there. Grew up in I have that quintessential immigrant story where my parents came over to this country with I like to say with $7 and the socks on their feet, and bootstrapped their way up to my dad owning a construction and roofing company, my
Wow.
mom working her way up and owning and operating assisted living facilities. So I come out of a world and a background that is heavily in construction and heavily in healthcare, specifically assisted living. Um, so COVID hit, like everyone knows, and Portland was one of the most restrictive areas of the country. And we relocated to Texas, my wife and I, with our children. And then shortly thereafter, my two brothers with their wives and children moved down. My parents ended up moving down. My in-laws moved down. So my whole extended family is pretty much here in San Antonio now.
Fantastic. So Sub 2's been around a couple of years now, been going on 2.5 years. Have you been in for a while? Did you get in early into that? How did you come to get hear about Pace and Sub 2?
I have, since I was always around real estate, I've done real estate more in a conventional sort of way, that old school 20% down type of
Mhm.
real estate. I got introduced to Pace through an acquaintance of mine, just watching his YouTube channels. I think after the first YouTube video I saw of Pace's on his channel, I was like, sold. And I went and signed up for Sub 2 without anyone else introducing me or anything like that. I just went and did it myself.
Now,
That
how
was
many people were in
July.
Sub 2 at that time? I know it's grown tremendously. How many people were in Sub 2 when you signed in?
I joined July of 2022, so less than a year ago, and there was about 4,000 people.
Wow.
And now we're in March of 2023, and there's about 8,000 people. So it's doubled just in the time I've been here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a great community. There's a lot of resources here. There's a lot of amazing people in the community. And just in this short period of time, I've made some meaningful, not just acquaintances, but some real friendships and
Mhm.
people who I call personal friends who are just amazing.
That's
I'm
awesome.
lucky. I'm lucky that I get to hang around people like you.
Well, I'll say I appreciate yourself so much. They always talk about in real estate, we're the sum of the five people we surround ourselves with. And I'm just blessed every day to look at the people I call my friends. and such as yourself, but I'm honored to hear your story and have you here. Um, as you got into Sub 2, we know there's a lot of stuff. There's a fire hose of information. What was your original path? Was it just trying to assimilate the fire hose, or did you have a distinct path you wanted to go to? How was your progression there in the beginning as you got going?
Yeah, so I think my path is pretty unique in that I joined Sub 2 um, primarily for the networking and also for the capital and private money aspect of it. So having talked about earlier where my mom specifically owned and operated assisted living facilities, my wife and I in turn have also operated assisted living facility. And my goal with joining Sub 2 was to network to further expand my portfolio of assisted living facilities. And after you're dropped off in Sub 2, I don't think it's a fire hose. I think it's like they drop you in the middle of the Atlantic and it's like swim back. So you get 3 months, just soak in the water and then come up for breath and you'll kind of figure out where you are. So that's why I joined Sub 2 was for the networking thing to further expand my assisted living potential. And it's still something that I work with. Shortly after joining Sub 2, one of the benefits about Sub 2 is that Pace does the weekly, family Q&A times. And I was in on that pretty early on, and I had some questions about assisted living. And you raise your whole hand and Pace, you can ask Pace questions. And I mean, it was maybe a couple of weeks in where Pace was like, Rob, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and help out in the elephant community. And I had no clue what that was. And so, for those of you who don't know, Pace puts on this a public challenge where he invites people to come and learn the very basic introductory steps to what real estate wholesaling particularly is. So I was like, well, I don't know a whole lot about that stuff, but there's no better way to learn than to teach.
Mhm.
So I jumped in there and got rocking with that. So I became an elephant leader pretty quickly early on when elephant pretty much started. And then doing that for a month or two, I was in front of Pace again, and he called me out in the middle of a Zoom and was like, hey, I want you to take lead on some things in the Gator community. So there's a whole nother community called the Gator community, which is separate from Sub 2, which is separate from the public Pace Morby creative finance group. There's the third group that's called Gator. So I'm one of the leaders in Elephant. I'm one of the leaders in Gator. And so I call myself the zookeeper now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, for those you mentioned the elephant challenge, as Pace says, um, and then you just mentioned the Gator community. For those that aren't familiar with that, maybe people watching on YouTube or even on the call right now, could you expand a little bit about what the Gator community is? And of course, your topic today is the Gator method. Can you
Yeah,
talk about that for a little bit?
sure. So um, within the world of various ways to make money, especially in real estate, one of those approaches is that there's people who know how to make money using money. They know how to make more capital using capital. We typically call those people lenders. Okay. Within the world of lending, there's various subsets and various types of lending and all sorts of different ways to do all sorts of different things. One of those sub buckets is called transactional lending. And basically, what transactional lending does is it helps facilitate transactions being completed by investors. So that can look at like various different things. One of the things that can look like is earnest money funding, double closings, wrap entry fundings, down payments for rehab type of deals where they're doing a hard money and they need that entry funding. So what Pace has done is he's taken a few of these little approaches within transactional lending and codified them into a program and put a name on it, and that's what Gator method is. It's a whole separate training and program that is under PACE. It's not under the sub 2 umbrella. It's a whole different group. They don't cross collateralize or anything. It's a whole separate group. So that's what Gator is. Gator is a subset of transactional lending.
Okay, we got a question here. I'm going to bring somebody on with us. We have Ivy. Ivy, you're on with Rob Sema. What's your question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Ivy.
Hi, how are you? I'm in San Antonio also. I saw you when Pace came here, and I saw you in another Zoom. I just want to clarify that you charge 1% of the purchase price when you lend money. Is that correct? Not the money I lent from you, for example.
Sure. So let me preface that. There's no set rate that anyone charges within the Gator program. We're all free to charge whatever we feel like we can make on that deal. Some people are greater negotiators. Some people are doing a high volume of deal. It just depends on whatever that particular Gator is interested in doing, how they pursue their deals, right? I personally, if I'm doing a standard earnest money type of funding, if that's what we're talking about, earnest money, I'll give you an example. Here in San Antonio, where we are, average median purchase price is roughly $300,000. On a typical deal, most people will put up 1% as their EMD. So in our example, there would be $3,000, right? I charge 1% of the purchase price as my return. So I'll put in 1% for the wholesaler and I'll get 2% back. Effectively, I'm doubling my money on every standard EMD that I'm doing where I'm funding 1%. If it's a deal where, let's say it's $300,000 and they're asking for $20,000 or $30,000 of funding, I'm going to structure that a little bit differently because the risk is different there, right? The amount of money is different there. So I'm going to negotiate it a little bit differently. But if it's a standard 1% input, I'll ask for 2% back. I'll double my money. And the second reason I do that is because it harkens back from my assisted living days. So in the assisted living world, a lot of operators, they'll have a flat baseline and then they'll have a schedule of fees. Like if I'm going to do this for you, it's an extra charge. If I'm going to do this for you, an extra charge. I never liked that approach because I felt like I was nickeling, diming people. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of in my mentality carried over to my Gator business where I just want everyone to know my standard fee is 1%. And that way, when I'm doing a high volume of deals with wholesalers, they can factor that into their costs of doing business. They know that if they're borrowing money from Rob, it's 1% for standard EMD. Makes it easier for the wholesalers. It's pretty easy to get a hold of me. I have the same handle on all of my social medias, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Discord, on Slack, on anything you can think of. It's the Rob Sema everywhere I am. It takes me a little while to respond sometimes, and I apologize. I'm not putting anyone off. There's a lot going on. But if you reach out to me, I'd be happy to help.
Gene Maldonado, you are on with Rob Sema. What's your question?
Hey, I know I'm in the right group now. This is wonderful. I have operational experience in the assisted living or with seniors with disabilities. And Rob, I'd like to connect with you. I have a couple of business partners that's basically what they want to do. The demographics are there. You know, the biggest population growth right now in the seniors is 85 plus. And so there's a huge need for that. And that's going to be one of our business models right now is assisted living. And so I'd like to team up with you and figure out how we can actually take this to the next level and compete with the big box boys.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like you're in Oregon. I have a lot of intimate familiarity with assisted living facilities in Oregon, having operated and owned in Oregon. But yeah, if we're talking about assisted living stuff, I'm also in the process of setting up a fund, a registered fund, for the purpose of raising capital in order to deploy into the acquisitions of assisted living facilities.
You're speaking my language. Getting a syndication or a fund just purely for that and showing investors the numbers. They got to make sense. There's no emotion in it. Actually, I think like a 50 unit apartment complex can cash flow like a large 5, 6, 7, 8 bed unit when you blow out the garage and make it into a bigger facility. And in Oregon, they've got grant money to do that exactly, to put fire sprinklers in there.
Yes. Yeah, that's amazing. The primary model I run is typically around 16 beds. As you may know, like 16 beds and below is one kind of license, 17 beds and above is a different kind of license. I really like that 16 bed model, and I offer a product that is more of a white glove type of service.
Yeah.
So I'm typically in much better neighborhoods, charging at much higher rate than what others around me would be. And I typically don't do anything related to Medicaid. I'm
Right.
all private pay.
I'm all private pay. Private pay is the way to go.
Fantastic. I would love to connect with you. You have my contact info. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'd be happy to talk.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
And then, Gene, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll make sure you get in touch with Rob if need be. And, you know, as always, join the group, add me as a friend, and let's help you build your network, my friend. We've got Edgar Alexandre with us. Edgar, you're on with Rob Sema. What's your question?
Hey, Rob, how you doing?
How are you, sir? Nice to
Good,
talk
my
to you
friend.
again, Mr. Edgar.
Yeah, we've been connected already in the Sub2 community, and it's a pleasure to be here. You know, we really appreciate what JJ is doing here. So, Rob, I've been doing a couple of lending deals, but I want to become more professional, of course. I joined a Sub2 about 6 months ago, and I also did join the Gator community about a month ago. So I went through all the trainings and everything else, you know, kind of eating everything up as far as this training there. So now I'm at the point where I'm, you know, thanks to JJ, you know, I've been exposed enough that people come to me for deals. But of course, I want to become more professional. So I need to learn more, you know, how to protect myself and how to protect everybody involved in the deal. So as far as the paperwork and the right protections and everything else. So would you and JJ be open to maybe, you know, partner with me in a couple of deals so I could kind of learn it as, you know, as we make, you know, as we do deals together? Would you folks be open to that?
No, absolutely. Speaking for myself, I'm happy to work with anyone on deals. So let me preface that. So, you know, the amount of work I do in the community, like I try to wear my heart on my shoulder and let people know, like, I'm happy to help. I want to help. I want to be involved in as many deals as possible and do whatever. But that it's hard for me when people come to me and be like, here's $100,000, here's $500,000. Can you deploy that for me in Gator deals? The answer is usually no. It's hard to deploy that kind of capital, a large volume of capital consistently, routinely in Gator deals. You're much better off spending that in private money and long-term loans and different kinds of loans, right? Now, that's a different discussion than, for example, yesterday I had a discussion with a gentleman within Sub2 and Gator community. He's like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to mine leads like crazy. Can you help me close those leads and we can fund them together? The answer is always yes for those, right? Like, I'm sitting on stacks of capital right now with not enough deals to invest it in. It's refreshing for me when someone's like, hey, can I help you lead gen? Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Let's do that as much as you want. So I would love to work with you. Let's get that lead gen problem figured out. And then deploying the capital is easy, right? Like, we can always sit down and review paperwork and talk to attorneys and all that sort of stuff. Getting that volume that we would need to work together is what I would love to continue to work and grow. That's where my primary focus is right now in my business.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Edgar, thank you so much. And, you know,
Thanks,
to go with
JJ.
what Rob has said to some extent, you know, as you guys assemble your deals, if the numbers work, the money's always going to be there. But the key is to build the relationships first. You build the relationships first as the deals present themselves. since you have relationships in place, you can then go to those people because you know them. And as long as your numbers work, the money's always going to be there. Always. Again, you don't market your business, you market yourself. Edgar, thank you for joining us, my friend. Great question. Thank you so much. Mark Chang, you are on with Rob Sema, my friend. What's your question?
Awesome. Yeah, much appreciated. Thank you very much, JJ, and thank you, Rob. A lot of really great things today, especially when it comes to the senior living or assisted living. I'm in California, something I've been interested for a while. Also, sub two, also a Gator. And what you dropped on knowledge was really great today, which is you're needing more lead generation. Is that correct, Rob?
I mean, I think that's the case in anything real estate and business related, right? The more leads you can get in, the more business you're going to have. I'm exposed to fantastic people like Edgar and a lot of people with really deep pockets. I'm sitting on lots of capital, but there's no way to deploy that in a meaningful way if we're talking strictly Gator deals. Now, hey, Edgar, listen, I've got a $5.5 million portfolio of 3 assisted living facilities in the Houston area that I need to fund in the next 90 days. That's a very different discussion, right? Now we're talking about like, hey, this is real tangible deals. It's not like, hey, I'd like to just throw $100,000 into whatever deal you got coming. Like JJ says, like it's super relational. Like I want to talk to you, Mark, before I'm going to ask you for money, right? I want you to know, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, let's develop a relationship because I'm going to be asking you for 100,000, 500,000, whatever it is. And I'm not going to ask you just once. I'm going to ask you a lot because I want to develop and nurture that relationship because my job as the funder, sorry, not the funder, the person who is managing the fund is to make sure that you're taken care of, right? I'm here to serve you. Yes, of course, we're here to serve the residents and the patients and our staff and all that. But my primary concern is the investor. So if you don't know me, if we're not developed, if our relationship is not well developed, then it's like, oh, I don't want to have calls from Mark that says, hey man, what's going on with that deal? Like, no, I want to have calls with Mark was like, hey bro, I know that we're having issues with this deal. No worries. I know you'll take care of it. Right? That's relationship based. That's different.
100%. Yeah, no, great insight. Just by me being a fly on the wall, some of the things that you're saying so far, which has been really powerful. Having 16 and under properties, not Medicaid properties when it comes to assisted living, when it comes to leads, building those and the capital being there available. That's awesome. Reaching out to you, because I want to make sure that I respect your time, because the conversation can get much bigger, being Gator, assisted living, and it's up to. The best way to, respect your time and get on your calendar, is there a Calendly link? Is there Instagram, Facebook? What's the best for you?
Sure, I can Instagram, Facebook, everywhere at the Rob Sema is good to get a hold of me. I can also put a link to my calendar for you guys to schedule appointments. Just reach out to me and I'll send you that link. It's pretty easy. I have my phone number posted. Feel free to text me. But I'll be honest, like I have such a high volume of people calling. I don't pick up the phone unless it's on my calendar. So you can call all you want. I'm not picking up unless it's on my calendar. So please text me and then I'll know who you are and we'll put something on the calendar.
Okay, perfect. I'll send that. So text is better. So that's the 512-886 number?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And then are you doing anything in Dallas by chance?
Yes, sir. I'm working all over Texas.
Perfect. Yeah, so I just planted a flag there in December and January. So I'll be reaching on that. Thank you so much, Rob. And you had one other thing I don't know if you wanted to share on the last time with Sonic, you had a creative something that you were sharing. Is that something you're sharing here or is it only within our community? Because I know you had a Kickstarter for that.
Yeah, I'm happy to share that stuff too, if it's allowed. I'm trying to launch a Kickstarter for a project that I'm trying to get together. Do you guys ever go in the group, like any real estate group this happens in? Hey, I have this deal. Can someone give me $200,000 so I can fund it? And you get like 50 of those messages a day. And to me, that's kind of annoying. And
Yep.
so I would rather have a place where if I'm a borrower for a deal, I can just go into a place and input what I need and be
Mhm.
matched to specific lenders for my kind of deal. Wouldn't that be nice? Well,
Mhm.
that's pretty much what creativedeals.io is trying to do. It's an ambitious project. I haven't really been huge in the tech space. I'm comfortable in the area, but I'm partnered with some guys who are very high level, and we're just doing a little bit of market research right now to see what is the market really asking for, because that's important when you're trying to launch a platform like this. And then
Mhm.
what does that product look like? Because the truth is, it's a big need,
Mhm.
but there's lots of people talking about doing that sort of thing. And so it's a matter of how quick can you get to market? How good and differentiated is your product once you do get to market?
100%. Yeah, I love the ambition to be able to create that. Software is not an easy task, especially in this environment, but I didn't know that you were expressing that. So for some people who weren't there, maybe they might be interested in just clean up the clutter, because what you said was really important. Sometimes you put an ad out there about what you're looking for, but then it's an entire process just to vet out all the fluff, right? You're looking for one
Exactly.
thing, but you got to vet out 99% of stuff that people aren't serious, they're not capable, or they're just asking a lot of questions, which is great, but you're actually looking for an end goal here or a match. So thank you. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I will be reaching out. Appreciate you coming on here, Rob.
Absolutely. Creativedeals.io is the name of that. If you guys want to participate in that, I would appreciate it. It's no obligation. I'm happy to help. Thanks, Mark.
Jason Weaver, you are on with the Rob Sema. What's your question?
The Rob Sema. Hey, Rob, thanks for being here today. And JJ, thanks for hosting this as well. My question was regarding how you structure a Gator deal to cover yourself and cover that money. What's in the case deals fall through, things like that. Like how is that structured in the contracts, or how do you go about that?
So are you specifically asking for like earnest money, like that type of deal?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take our earlier example of the San Antonio $300,000 average purchase price, right? The wholesaler is going to put that property under contract with the seller, right? So that's the A to B transaction. And that's where I, as a Gator, will typically fund that earnest money there. Now we have an inspection period, however long that is.
Yeah.
During that inspection period, our goal, so one of my jobs as the Gator is to work hand in hand with the wholesaler to try to find a buyer. So our goal is to find a buyer within the inspection period. If we find a buyer, we try to negotiate that they put down a non-refundable earnest money deposit on that B2C transaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I typically suggest to the wholesaler when we're negotiating this is, let's ask them to put down, let's say, a $5,000 non-refundable. That does two things. It increases their level of commitment, right? They're putting a little bit more skin in the game. And number two, once it goes past inspection period, our money becomes hard. There is no way to protect yourself, right? So that if the
Mm-hmm.
deal cancels, the money should go to the seller. That's what the whole inspection period's for, right? Rightfully so. But if we have that non-refundable $5,000, 3,000 of that would go back to the seller, right?
Yep.
And I try to get my money back from that too.
Makes sense. Perfect. Thank you. That was very clear.
So, Rob, let me jump into that again, because, in my world of the old folks, we always talk about collateral. So on the Gator lend, when we're doing short-term transactional lending, traditionally a hard money lender is going to be in first position, private money lender is going to be in second position. I guess to sort of tail in on Jason's question there, and you probably just answered it, but I'm going to ask it from another angle. What is the collateral for a Gator lender?
It's a fantastic question that people really need to hear. Gator lending is extremely risky because we are not creating notes. The only thing that protects us as Gator lenders is a timeline. If we don't follow the timeline, there's a high risk of us losing our funding, right? If you don't find that buyer within that inspection period, you need to cancel, because if it goes past inspection, your money's hard and there's a high risk of losing it. So it's strictly a timeline that protects us because we're not putting a note against the property.
Okay, that's clear. And I think that's exponentially important for those that are looking to get into Gator lending, and what does it mean to be a lender or a Gator lender with transactional lending. So that's huge. We have Gail Unruh. Gail, you are on with the Rob Sema. What's your question?
Yeah, so I was just curious how you would start if you had absolutely no experience in assisted living, and what are the rewards and pitfalls, and what states have you seen that look good to start in? I would assume Texas is, if you're doing it there.
Yeah, so this is a very long discussion. I'd be happy to elaborate on it. So I start typically by researching the state regulations. They're pretty similar across the country, but there are some local differences. Also, I would recommend searching, for example, Assisted Living Association, Texas, or Assisted Living Association, Arizona, or whatever state you're looking to do it in. Because there's various rules and regulations. Some of them are actually even like city and county specific. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of, I mean, you're talking about dealing in one of the most regulated industries that exists in America. So be aware, it's not complicated, it's not difficult, but it's certainly not easy.
And if you're not a medical professional, you're going to have somebody run it, I would assume, and you're just going to be basically owning the property and taking a percentage of the profit.
I mean, there's various ways to do it. I would feel comfortable owning and operating. However, my goal is to have multiple facilities, and there's no way I can operate that many myself. I'd have to delegate that to executive directors, right, at each property. But that's totally doable too. So I would say if you're at all interested, I don't offer any formalized, structured training, but I'm happy to do some coaching and some consulting on that stuff. There is a group out of Phoenix that does more structured training. I think they're called RAL Academy, Residential Assisted Living Academy, who I would definitely recommend. Yes, that would be a great start.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's a very rewarding business, but it's very difficult. It could be very difficult. You're dealing with a lot of people. You're not only are you dealing with all the residents, you're dealing with staff, and you're also dealing with their family members. And on top of that, you're dealing with all the regulatory bodies who are constantly inspecting and auditing you, and you're dealing with all the rules and regulations, right? There's a lot to juggle. It's very rewarding, but it's also, I had a resident in one of my facilities who was was part of our family. I mean, he was there for 10 years. And it's hard when people get to end stages of life, when they have chronic sicknesses and all sorts of stuff happening, when people pass away. Like, this is a normal part. It's grotesque a little bit to say, you know, morbid, but people dying in my home was a normal part of my life. So be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, it takes a very kind of special kind of person. You need to have that kind of compassion and realize that this is your life now. Like, there's no hanging up your hat at the end of a 9 to 5 day. That doesn't exist.
My mother-in-law had pancreatic cancer, so sort of familiar with that, but she didn't go to assisted living.
Mhm.
I just curious. It sounds like something very worthwhile doing, and just seemed like there was a lot of hurdles to do it.
There are a lot of hurdles, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
If a bunch of immigrants can do it, you can do it too. Like, anyone can do it.
Okay.
It's not easy, but it's possible.
Gail, on that same note, you know, we have to understand as we're investing, you're talking about two different things here. One is investing in real estate, the other is investing in a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we invest in the businesses, or like Abraham Gray, so you're buying multiple businesses, as Rob says, there comes a point in time when you have to delegate some aspects of the operational management to somebody with some amount of expertise, some amount of experience. And that's where teaming up or joint venturing or partnering on a business comes in. But yeah, as Rob said, that's a whole nother it's a whole nother show that we can get into probably with Carl Allen, who we hope to have coming up soon. But Gail, thank you so much for your question. Great question.
Thank you.
Mr. Dante Mangioli, you are on with the Rob Sema. What's your question, my friend?
Hey, Rob. Hey, JJ. Thanks for being on here. Appreciate you, brother, too.
What's up, Dante?
What's going on, brother? Question for you, man. When you get the deal, right? I do a lot too. You're underwriting the deal as well before you go and fund it, right? Do you always fund it, whether it's either somewhat of a deal, or does it always have to be a deal for you to fund it?
I prefer to be conservative, but sometimes if you're too conservative, you never get any deals done, right? So it's never a line that's like, this is the line and I won't pass over it. It's always gray. Like, even deals that are fantastic deals, sometimes it's like, ooh, I'm still having to fund that, right? At least for me, like, and I think it's just a limiting mindset that I've had around money and growing up as, you know, a poor kid, you know, where even funding, you know, I had to fund an $800 deal. It's like, oh man, it's $800, you know? So I get where you're coming from. Like, at one point, is it like gray? At one point, is it just, yes, let's do this, it's an awesome deal? And it comes down to personality. There's just no way to do it. Do I still fund the majority of the time? Yeah. But I want to make sure I'm super protected in case the deal falls apart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The thing about, like, you know, and I think I've talked to you about this before. The thing you want to get to a point though where eventually you have enough leads coming in where it's like you can be a little bit more picky and be like, well, I don't need to fund 10 deals this month. I'll just do 5 or whatever. And I just wanted to fund deals that are easy. I'm not going to have to worry too much about, you know, I mean, I do a lot of deals with one person, one wholesaler. He brings me a lot of deals, you know, and with him, it's in Texas. It's a mutual release state where, you know, deals that fall apart can get complicated, but he knows what I want. You know, we've talked about expectations. We've talked about, here's what happens if XYZ happens. I don't even have to worry about an extensive amount of paperwork with him, right? Because the relationship I built with him and the relationship that we both each have with the escrow company, title company, everyone knows what's going on. We've done enough deals where, like, okay, here's the expectations. We all know them, right? So if he brings me a deal that's like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this sold, I'll fund it anyway because I'm working with him a lot, right? But if someone who I've never done a deal with comes and asks, hey, I have this deal. I mean, you know how it is. You get asked for all sorts of stuff that's like, bro, why would you even put this under contract? It's easy. I'm getting better at saying no, right? Early on, it was like, man, I want to do every deal possible.
Well, see, I was the opposite of you. Like 2 months ago, I was saying no because I was saying, you know what, this guy didn't have a buyer. I didn't think I was going to get a buyer, so I kept saying no because I'm very protective with my money because I have very little bit of amount. But now, like everything, well, this is my fault, but I don't have any more leads coming in, and that's probably because I said no before. So now I'm revamping different strategies to get more leads. Like instead of title companies, I went to agents now. So that's starting to really pick up now. So
good. Yeah. Dante, let's connect, man.
Absolutely.
I'd be happy to connect and work through that. The lead issue. So I tell people this about Gator, like Gator is the type of business where it's very dependent on the amount of leads coming in. I mean, if you have no leads coming in, you have 0 deals, right? That's pretty common. But it's not like once you get a few leads coming in, they repeat. Doesn't happen very often in Gator, right? So you need to constantly be working to put new people into the pipeline, into the conveyor belt, or whatever you want to call that contraption, right? The machine of the Gator business. So in essence, if you really think about it, what that means is Gator is not about lending. Gator is all about marketing and advertising. And so what Gator is all about is putting like JJ says, put yourself out there on repeat, till it gets super annoying, but that's how people get to know you. And the thing is, like, you can't ever stop, because if you stop, your deal flow falls apart and you don't do any more deals. So you want to keep feeding that. And I mean, I know I'm speaking from personal experience. I've tried to be a lone wolf for a long time, but it gets to a point where it's like, well, this is not working anymore. I need to delegate this. I need people to help me with this. I need people to help me with this. I need Dante to help me talk to agents all the time. Like, because I only have a certain amount of day in my life, right? So it's only when you start working together where it's like, wow, I have a friend, Navneet, who's an amazing entrepreneur, and he's always telling me, like, Rob, when me and you come together, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's 1 + 1 = 11. When we're together, it's exponential. So that's what we're talking about in that constant thing about that, that JJ talks about, like, get to know people, relationship build your connections, is because sometimes you come across people where it's like it's not like, hey, we're adding forces together. It's like when we come together, we're multiplying, we're exponentially growing, compounding our business, right?
Yeah, because I always see your posts on the wholesale groups. I feel like me and you I always see your stuff. So
yeah, but you know how many leads I get out of that stuff? 0.
Yep, same here.
0, because it's not about posting that stuff. You do have to post that stuff, but you need to follow up with the relationship. You need to follow up with talking to people on the phone.
Yep. It's like the billboard thing that Pace always says. He doesn't make any money on the billboard itself, but it's the other things, it's the other relationship building products that it just kind of gets in it's a psychology thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's a multifaceted thing. Like, I don't know, I'll speak personally, right? I'll do Facebook posting in groups. I'll do Facebook ads. I'll do Instagram ads. I'll do agent outreach. I'll do title company outreach. I'll reach out to wholesale groups. I'll go to REI meetups, right? I'll like multifaceted, multi-front approach to try to kill this enemy. That's how I have been able to do a little bit of successful things in Gator.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate you. It's been too long. Definitely have to connect.
Good to see you, Dante.
Dante, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it looks like we kind of got wrapped up with the questions. We had quite a few questions there.
I love it.
You know, Rob, you're awesome, brother. You're not only your level of experience, but as Pace talks about, your go-giver, mindset of giving back to the community, helping, leading by example. You're a true example of what it's all about to be in Sub 2 and give back to the community. Yeah, it's an honor to friggin' have you on, my friend. And again, for those that want to follow up with you, it's at the Rob Sema on Facebook and Instagram, and you have a YouTube channel.
Yes, sir. I'm not as active as I should be on YouTube. I'm trying to look up to you for some inspiration and do some more on YouTube. But I have a little bit of stuff that I stick on there every once in a while.
Cool. And let's team up and let me help you to promote yourself and continue to get you out there, because you bring great value to the community. And the most important part is letting everybody know who you are, which is part of what this is today. I really want to thank you for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube right now, there Rob Sena, Facebook, Instagram. You want to connect with myself, jj.azizian on Instagram. My website is jjazizian.com. I really want to thank everybody for being here today. Rob, I want to ask you one last question, and I ask this of all my guest speakers. You're in a very visible community, Sub 2, and Pace always talks about squatting up and working with others. But when it comes to the social media aspect, because all these, whether it's Thrive, Clever Investor, Astro, Sub 2, Jerry Norton, whatever they may happen to be, all these education groups have a Facebook page or community for their membership. Some are new investors, some are experienced investors. They're not always, well versed at social media and networking. What, in your opinion, having been in the game for a while and being recognized for your success in the community of Sub 2, what is the importance for the new or the experienced investor in networking via social media, if not also being a part of a group like my group, for example?
It's important because I'll give you my experience. Like, it's okay to just scroll on Facebook and just like and comment on people's things. That's great. That's just the first step, right? Because you can still kind of be anonymous doing that. But if you want to have success in life, you need to step beyond just being a spectator, and you need to actually engage with people. And that is critical. Like, I've built up relationships with people who now are my business partners, and we drive hours to see each other and talk and hang out just because we enjoy each other. And it's people who I have zero in common other than I was plugged into this weird dude, Pace, who put us together and made us talk. And now we're doing freaking amazing world-changing things. At least we're changing our worlds. That's how I see it. So it's all about, we said it earlier, like it's about getting, you're a sum of the 5 people you're around. That's awesome. That's true. I thought, like, how about I surround myself with like 50 freaking awesome people and become a sum of 50 people? Like, because I'm not about like, living an awesome life. I don't want to 10x my life. I'm talking about like 50x. How can we get 50x?
Mm-hmm.
How can we do freaking amazing things? So that's where I'm at. Yes, community is critical. Like, there's no way. I wish I was a lone ranger. I wish I was a good lone wolf. I'm not. I haven't figured out how to do that world-changing stuff by myself. Only Jesus can do that. I haven't figured out. Even Jesus couldn't do it by himself. He needed disciples. But it's critically important, right? You need people and you need people higher up, like JJ is to me, pulling me up. Other people pulling me up. I would have zero. I would have literally nothing if it wasn't people like you guys reaching down to pull us up whenever we were willing to help those around us. So thank you guys. Thank you for community. Thank you for being willing to support young schmucks like me
and old schmucks like me, and on that same note, just taking a note, whether he's watching or not. Pace Morby, thank you for everything you've done for our community, for Rob and myself, and for those that wholeheartedly follow you, believe in you, and respect you. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, please like the video. Please, in the comments below, put something that what you liked about the video. Love Rob's hat, hate my bald head, whatever it happens to be. Put some kind of comment in there, and connect with Rob. Look for more videos coming up from my YouTube channel, Flip Side Up with JJ. And we got Muniz Saza coming up. We got Scott Jenkins coming up. More rock stars from the Sub-2 community. And again, want to thank everybody for being here. Don't go away. We're going to go to the live breakout rooms and do some live networking. On behalf of Rob and myself, Rob, I guess this is what we tell him. Thank you, and see you guys next week.
Thank you, guys.